Welcome to the Just Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Isabella, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a space where we come together to embrace the real, raw, and beautiful journey of motherhood. Here, we'll navigate the challenges of motherhood together, while I offer you support and encouragement to help you show up as your best self and to thrive in your role as a mom. Whether you're currently pregnant, adjusting to postpartum life, or you're a seasoned mom, you have found a community that gets it. So grab a cozy spot, maybe a cup of coffee, and let's get started. Hi friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Just Motherhood podcast. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so excited for today's topic as we're going to jump into all things early motherhood. I really am hoping that this episode is going to be helpful for first-time moms or moms who are currently pregnant and are about to be giving birth soon. I did want to say before I start that I do have a lot of content ideas, and honestly, I think I have enough ideas to get me through spring of 2025, but this podcast is not for me. It's not for me just to come on here and ramble about whatever I want to talk about for the week. I genuinely want to make sure that I'm serving you well. So if you have certain things that you need to hear, if you need answers to things, or you need practical advice or encouragement and support, please feel free to email me. My email is below in the description of this podcast episode, and just email me if you have questions, if you have a topic suggestion. You can list it all out in one sentence. You can write me a whole essay. Please feel free to reach out to me and share whatever you're needing, because I want to make sure that I am catering this podcast to my little family of listeners and that you are getting everything that you need from me. So reaching out to me really helps. You can also reach out to me on my social media. I have my TikTok and my Instagram down below as well. And I'm not going to lie, Instagram would probably be easier. I definitely like how their messaging works a lot better than TikTok, but you could reach out to me on either one. Instagram would probably just get you a response a little bit quicker, but you can connect with me there. I'm also just happy to chat. Even if you're hey, you don't have to do an episode about this, but I had some questions about this thing you mentioned, please feel free to reach out to me. I want to be here to support you guys and equip you and encourage you, and just be somebody that's in your corner, because that's the whole goal of this podcast episode is to have somebody that you know is rooting for you throughout your motherhood journey. But like I said, we are talking about early motherhood today, and this episode is specifically for the first-time moms. I feel even if you've already had 3 or 4 children, this hopefully is going to be helpful content for you, but it's really for the moms. You walk into motherhood with all these expectations and, oh, it's going to be like this, or, I've heard my friends say this, or my family member said that, and you think you know what you're going to walk into, but reality hits you and it ends up being completely different than what you were expecting. And that was something I experienced. I thought that my motherhood journey would look a certain way, and it did not. And honestly, there's a lot of it I didn't even know what to expect. I kind of was just oh, it's all going to be great and fun, and I'm going to have this cute little snuggly newborn. And while that is most of the reality, you're also dealing with a lot of these internal things, and some of them you can't control, some of the things you may accidentally be putting on yourself. So we are going to talk through just a couple tips that I came up for the new moms, or if you are about to be a new mom, if you're currently pregnant. I'm hoping that these can help you navigate those early days, because those probably first 2 to 4 weeks feel the craziest. I feel once you hit the 6 to 8 week mark, you're kind of okay, I know what I'm doing now. I kind of get a better understanding, and it's really those early days. I don't know what it is about it. You're in a fog, you're in a haze, and you're genuinely in survival mode. I don't even know if our bodies are functioning the way they're supposed to be. And I know they're not. We're not getting enough sleep. We're probably not really eating everything we need to be eating. It is genuinely the grace of God that carries us through those early days, but there are some things that I think can help make it a little bit easier. So the first thing that I would highly recommend is to stop Googling everything. And I don't just mean Google, whatever search engine you use, but I feel everybody just uses Google. But even going to social media, stop searching for the answers online. There is so much of motherhood that comes naturally. You have an intuition that no other person is going to have for your baby. Like, even my husband means well, he knows well, he like knows my son's cues so well, but there's just some things like you will know deep inside when something is wrong, when you need to alter something, when you need to make a different choice. Like, there's some times where I'm like, my son just seems a little bit off. I'm going to take him to the doctor. And he has like the start of an ear infection. Like, he's not even at like a full ear infection yet. Like, it is just the start of it. And I'm like, I just knew, like, that was my intuition saying, no, something's wrong. I'm going to take him to the doctor. And my husband's like, oh, I didn't even like notice. And not a knock on my husband, but that's just me trying to show you guys, or I guess tell you guys, that you genuinely do have this intuition. You know best how to care for your baby. And God gives us that grace and gives us that wisdom to care for our children. And it can be so easy, especially when you're a new mom. This is your first baby. Or if you're somebody like me, I had zero experience with babies. Like, I think the youngest kid I ever babysat was like maybe 2 or 3. So I genuinely was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this is right, if this is correct. There's so many things that you could stay up late Googling, and during nursing Googling, and it's not beneficial. If anything, it's going to create more anxiety, or it's going to feel like this overwhelming sense of like that you don't know. And the reality is, like, there are things like you don't know, like, but it's not a bad thing. Your confidence in being a mom is still growing. You're still learning how to be a mom and how to show up in motherhood, and it's okay. I'm still learning over a year in, and there's things in every season of motherhood that you won't know how to navigate, and it is perfectly okay. Let your intuition lead you, let the Holy Spirit guide you, and you can figure it out. Now, if you are ever seriously concerned, I also recommend, like, take your baby to the doctor. Go to your doctor or get medical advice for it. Stop Googling it, because Google is going to tell you the worst of the worst, and that is not helpful when you are a new mom. So trust yourself, trust your gut, get medical advice when needed, and then Google. Like, Google's not always a bad thing. I do want to say that. Like, it's not the worst of the worst. If you genuinely are like, I don't know what temperature I should keep my room, it feels a bit too cold in here. If you absolutely feel like you need to Google it, because obviously a doctor is not going to give you that answer, Google that. But I'm more so talking like, oh, my baby's poop is like this, and he's not sleeping like this, and he's not latching. Like, if you start Googling all these things about behavioral things with your baby, that's where the bad stuff can kind of creep into your mind. That's where the inadequacies start, and these lies that we tell ourselves. So just please refrain from Googling as much as possible. I promise you, you will be surprised how much you can do on your own. You are so much more capable than you think you are. You have so much power, so much strength, so much wisdom that you don't even know that's inside you yet. This also kind of goes into my next tip, but I highly encourage you to set limits on social media. Stop doom scrolling. Stop scrolling every time you're nursing or every time your baby's sleeping. Because I don't think social media is bad, but when you are a new mom and all you're seeing on social media is content from other moms, you can get to a place where you are comparing yourself, and you're starting to set standards for yourself, or you're starting to think, oh, well, I need to do these things, or I need to parent like her. I need to do XYZ thing for my baby like she does. And it can be a really bad place for us, especially in early motherhood where, like I just said, our confidence in being a mom is still growing and developing. And comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is going to put us in a place where we feel like we're not good enough and that we aren't a good mom for our babies. But the reality is, like, who you are is exactly the mom that you are meant to be for your child. God determined that you were going to be your child's baby. He knew that you were going to be the best mom to your baby with the best qualities, the best character. Like, he already knew. Like, you have it inside you, and every baby's needs are different. And you are the one who can most take care of your baby. You are the one that can take care of your baby the best. And no other mom on social media, like, she's doing the best for her kids, so let her do that. But don't compare yourself. And it sounds so easy to say. It's like, oh, of course I don't compare myself. But I promise you, our mental state, our emotional state in early motherhood is very fragile. And a lot of it is the hormones of it all and experiencing something completely new to us that comparison just creeps in and you don't even realize it until all of a sudden you're like, why am I doing this thing? Oh yeah, I saw another mom on TikTok doing it. Or you don't even realize you're doing it until now you're starting to act it out, or now you're trying to change your routine to look like another mom. So I really, really recommend set those limits on social media. Scroll and catch up with friends and family and all that stuff. But once you find you're just scrolling to scroll, cut it out and find something better to fill your time with. The third tip that I would give is make sure you are still taking the time for either a shower or self-care, like skincare and like all that kind of stuff, like at least every day. Like you need that, but it's also such a practical, simple thing that truly changes your mood. I really did try to take a shower almost every day, and it made me feel so great. It made me feel like I was less stinky, and we all know, like, when you are still bleeding for like 2 to 4 weeks afterwards, there is like this smell to it, and it is not the most pleasing smell. And so just having a shower, just it feels like, oh, I'm a new person. I can do this. I can go into another pumping session or another feeding session, or I can do this thing, that thing. Like I feel like it just gives you energy. So whether it's your husband's holding the baby, or if your mom is over and she's watching the baby monitor while you take a shower, like just please make sure you get that time in, 15 to 20 minutes. And I know it can feel really hard sometimes because either you don't want to be away from your baby or you don't have the energy to do it. But it is such a simple way to take care of yourself. And I really highly recommend that you at least do that. And if you have the space and margin to do other forms of self-care, please do that. Like, please prioritize your self-care. But if all you can do is take a shower or wash your face, just at least do that. And I promise it will make you feel so much better. The next tip is stop putting the pressure on yourself. I think so many of us just want to jump back into our normal routines or our normal life of, oh, well, I cooked dinner every night before my husband got home, or I did the laundry on Saturdays, or, like whatever those like routines and chores and housekeeping like looks like. But you need to stop. You genuinely need to just lay in your bed or sit on the couch and hold your baby. You are trying to heal. Your body is trying to heal itself, and you need that rest. You need to slow down. And that also gives you the beautiful moments of bonding with your baby, of connecting with your baby that you will not get back if you keep putting them down to do whatever thing you need to do around your house. Like, please DoorDash food or buy a bunch of frozen meals from Target and just go do a Target pickup order, or have the groceries delivered and eat the frozen food, or eat the really easy to make dinners. Ask for help when you need it. Like, ask for people to come bring you meals. Ask if somebody can help you do the laundry. Ask your husband to step in and do the laundry. Because I know so many husbands are like, I want to help. Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Like, delegate that stuff to them. Like, hey, can you please do the laundry? And if they don't do it correctly, just let them not do it correctly. You need the rest. And I know it's hard. I'm a control freak. I am a type 1 Enneagram. I want things done my way, perfectly, all the time. I want to be the one to make dinner, and it has to be a good dinner with all these like nutrients and all this kind of stuff. But just don't focus on that. Your baby is your number one priority. And if you need to delegate, if you need to ask for help, if you need to find the easy way to do things, just do that, at least for the first several weeks. Like, please stop putting that pressure on yourself, because it is going to take away from the moments of being with your newborn, and especially taking away from the healing time that your body actually needs. This also kind of goes into our next tip of, you cannot spoil your baby. So many people say, oh, you got to put your baby down, you're going to spoil her, let her nap in her crib, let him do whatever. Like, people always just love to throw in their opinion. They're like, you're going to spoil your baby. You cannot spoil a baby. This baby was inside you for 9+ months. They only know the safety of your embrace. They only know the sound of your voice and your heartbeat, and how scary it must be for them to suddenly be out of the world. Now they feel coldness, they feel hunger, they feel being alone for the first time. That has to be terrifying for them when they've been held in your warm body and feeling you 24/7 their entire life up until birth. You cannot spoil your baby. Now, there are times like, yes, you're eventually going to have to transition to letting your baby nap in a crib or bassinet because you may be returning to work, or you want to make sure that they have a good sleep routine. And I think that there are times that you can eventually do that and integrate that into your schedule. But in the first few weeks, you cannot spoil that baby. That baby wants to be held. Your child wants you. They need you. And it creates such a deep bond with your baby. It creates safety, it creates trust, and you cannot spoil your baby. If you feel like you need to put him down, just hand him to like your husband or something. Like, let that baby be held. You cannot spoil your baby. But I also do want to encourage you. I completely understand, like, when you're like, I'm tapped out. I can't hold this baby anymore. I feel like I'm just being touched all day. It is okay to put your baby down sometimes. So hear me say, like, I'm not saying only hold your baby. I don't want to be one of those people either. I'm just here to say you cannot spoil your baby. So however much you want to hold them is perfectly okay and normal. Whether you need to put them down or pass them to somebody else, that is totally your call. If you want to hold them 24/7, that is also your call too. You cannot spoil your baby. Another thing that I want to tell y'all is that breastfeeding is not always easy. And that can be really hard to hear because people say that it's supposed to be natural, but just because breastfeeding is natural does not mean it comes naturally. There's a lot of babies that struggle with latch. It could just be something that they struggle with. It could be that they have like a tongue or lip tie. Could be mom's anatomy. It could just be just something random. Like it just is not coming naturally to either of you. And this can be so frustrating. And I'm going to do more episodes like on breastfeeding, on pumping, on formula. Like, we're going to talk all things feeding your baby, but just because it's natural does not mean it comes naturally, and that's okay. Keep trying, but if you're in pain or your baby is not eating, please, please, please get in touch with a lactation consultant. There are ones that are covered by insurance, so hopefully you're able to find one, and if not, there's a lot of like groups that will meet with moms, and it's completely free. So please do your research and find somebody in your area if you need a lactation consultant that can help you through that process and can help you get your baby to latch or to stop any pain associated with breastfeeding. And if you truly are like, I can't do this, that is totally okay. Whether you make the decision to exclusively pump or if you choose to switch to formula, just know that your baby being fed is the number one priority. It does not matter the means to it. And so please just know any decision you make, you are doing it with the best intentions behind it. But just because breastfeeding isn't always easy doesn't mean that it can't happen. Sometimes it just does take a little bit of maybe outside help. You may need some pillows to help prop you. You may need like a nipple shield or something like that. So there's so many resources, and you can get all of that when you connect with a lactation consultant if you feel that's your next step. And the last thing that I just want to share with y'all is that almost all moms experience baby blues to some degree. And I feel like this obviously looks different across the board, but the baby blues are normal. Like, they most likely, like I was saying, 99% of the time they will happen. And it's just like a feeling of kind of like some sadness, some grieving. Like, it is so normal to feel those baby blues, and it's all hormonal for the most part. Like, you just went through a huge change. Like, this baby was inside you, now they're here, and your whole life is adjusting and molding around this new human being in your family. And so that is completely normal, and it is totally okay. But it's so important that you do have your 6-week checkup with either your midwife or your OBGYN, because they will talk a little bit more about like your mental health and check in on you and see how you're doing. And please just be honest. I highly encourage you, err on the side of hey, I'm experiencing all these things. Are these normal? Like, are these baby blues, or is this a little bit deeper? Because I know I experienced baby blues, but I did not like let on with how intense they were. And I ended up like at, I think it was, I was almost 5 months postpartum. So like 4.5 months postpartum, I was like, I think I'm dealing with postpartum depression. Like, I should not be feeling it for this length of time anymore. And it was like really bad. And I'm going to do a whole like episode on postpartum depression. But I would err on the side of like, share everything with your medical provider or your midwife, and they can help you determine, is this just baby blues? Is this postpartum depression? And if it is postpartum depression, you can get help for that. You can meet with a therapist or a counselor, and if it's bad enough, you can choose to get on an antidepressant. I used an antidepressant for a while, but the baby blues are normal. Like, there is nothing wrong with you if you are feeling sadness, or sometimes you may look at your baby and you're like, I know I'm supposed to love you, but I don't feel it quite like right now. And if that feeling lingers, if these feelings of, I don't have motivation, I can't do anything, I feel sad all the time, I just don't feel like myself, I don't know what I'm doing, like this overwhelm, like all these things, like if that is continuing past that, first couple weeks, then we probably are looking at something more serious. And obviously I'm not a professional, but I will share my personal experience with postpartum depression in the future. But in those first few weeks, that sadness, that grief, that just feeling of like, I don't know what's going on, I'm kind of overwhelmed, I'm disoriented, I don't have motivation, that is normal, and that is a part of the baby blues. So those are just a few of the tips and things that I wanted to share. Being a new mom can come with so many different ups and downs. There's so many things that you deal with. Like I said, you go in with all these expectations of like, it's going to be great, everything's going to come naturally, we're going to know what we do, and then it's like this overwhelm just can sink in, and you're not alone in that. We all are experiencing motherhood for the very first time. And that's why I wanted to create this podcast, is like, we all are just learning. We all are growing. We're all learning how to be confident in our decisions for our babies. And it's perfectly okay to not have all the answers and to not know how to do everything. But that's why I'm here. That's why other mom podcasters are here. Like, we just want to help encourage you and support you through this process. So if you have any questions about the things that I shared today, or if you want more tips or support for early motherhood, like I said, you can connect with me. Everything is down below in the description. So I hope that this was helpful for you and gives you a little bit of encouragement and insight for early motherhood, whether that's something you're currently walking through or if you are about to be giving birth soon. I pray that it is a wonderful, beautiful season for you, and that you are able to take everything in and you use your wisdom, your intuition, and the grace of God to carry you through. If you enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, please take a moment to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts so that we can help to reach other mamas who are in need of encouragement and guidance to show up as their best selves. And make sure that you also take a minute to subscribe or follow my podcast on Spotify or Apple so that you don't miss out on the future episodes. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and remember, you are loved, you are valued, and you are chosen. See you next week, Mama.